Escape to the Metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned in to the Matthew Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the Metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned in to the Matthew Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the Metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned in to the Matthew Rizzle show, yeah. Escape to the Metaverse. Better act like you know, yeah. You are now tuned in to the Matthew Rizzle show, yeah.
Hey everyone, before we begin this week's episode of the Matthew and Rizzle Show, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Okay, Trippyogi, welcome finally to the Matthew and Rizzle Show.
Hey, Matthew. Hey, Rizzle. How's it going? Happy to be here.
Hey, what's up, man?
There we go. Dude, so, I mean, obviously we know one another pretty intimately over here. Happy to say that I've actually met you IRL, which is a supreme pleasure. But for everyone listening in who may only know you as this like floating rainbow cloud in crypto voxels, or this builder of a new project, MetaTraveler, or like any of the other things that you're known throughout the metaverse as, like including artist, tell folks a little bit about your background, maybe before you came into crypto and the NFT space. And then maybe let us know like how you actually fell down this rabbit hole with us.
Yeah. Man, where to begin? So it's been a fun, wild ride, you know? And so I guess to start way back, you know, originally trained, or I guess educated as an engineer, right? So computer science, mechanical engineering, very technical minded, right? And then, you know, been a musician my whole life, you know, loved experimenting with different synths, or, you know, classically trained in violin from, you know, early age. You know, was full-time producing music, you know, after I got out of college, and me and my, music partner, you know, we were, you know, all in on music. And then it was, I think a few years in, you know, I started making, visual content for that music, right? And so we needed either flyers or album covers or little animation clips, things like that. And so that was kind of my segue into visual art. You know, and it started with just little looping GIFs. You know, I had one of my friends skateboarding, and I just took a few pictures and stitched together a GIF. And I think that was like the first GIF I ever made. And so, you know, I really started getting into, computer generative graphics, right? So I had this little bit of a coding background. And so, you know, it was through, I think, Joshua Davis's course on Skillshare. And this was years ago, maybe 2013 or 14. I was introduced to processing, which is a Java-based generative art through, it's like processing.org. I'm sure everybody has heard of it now with the whole explosion of generative art, you know, through NFTs. But it was funny because, you know, this was so many years ago, right? And then over the past year or so, I've actually seen that same course instructor kind of like enter the space. And, you know, he's always been,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's been a mentor to me, you know, from afar. And so, you know, that was a tiny little segue, but yeah, so I started doing generative art, was really into, you know, controlling the pixels with code. But I wanted to bring a bit more of a human element to it, right? So, you know, a lot of the art that I had been making was just basic shapes and colors and glitch effects and things like that. But, you know, I realized that at that point I needed to kind of shift towards more like a 3D platform, kind of like motion design, character rigging, animation, all of that stuff. So, I started diving deep into, Cinema 4D and these 3D software platforms, creation platforms. And that's really where, that was about the time when I started making art full time. And, I was doing looping animations. People have probably seen some of those animations on Giphy or, Instagram, a lot of different animations, just was pumping those out, while I was trying to learn as much as possible. And then I think it was, let's see. Yeah, I was doing my own art, also doing plenty of commission work, which has its ups and downs, as I'm sure, many artists that you've spoken to talk about, right? Of course, we as artists, you got to make a living somehow, right? And so for a lot of us, who are doing digital art, is you make as much digital art as you can for free and hope that someone will pay you to make something for them, right? That was the traditional model. And whether you liked what they were asking you to make or not, that varied, from client to client. But yeah, so, I was doing that. And then, I also, there was one point where I was relocating. So I started doing, I took on a tech job, so then it was in fintech, and I had actually been interested in Bitcoin and crypto for a while. So, I thought it'd be an interesting opportunity to get some experience, on the technical side, develop my technical chops, learn JavaScript, C#, more in like a enterprise level opportunity, right? So, the vision there was kind of like, well, I have this art and tech art background. How could I learn to like scale that and potentially, create even greater art installations or bigger art pieces or things like that, so I learned a lot, about server infrastructure, coding, all of that, and how all these pieces fit together, to create the bigger picture. So yeah, I spent a couple years there while I was still making art, all throughout the night. And then I think it was a couple years ago, was it someone from Maker Place had actually, I think it was Rioma from Maker's Place actually reached out and was like, hey, we have this new art platform where you can sell your digital art. Would you like to try it? You just have to send us a few artworks and we can help you get set up or whatever. So, I minted a few. I didn't even know it was minting because, they actually made it a very user-friendly experience. So I didn't know that there was crypto attached to this at all. Like I just thought, okay, I'm putting this on the website, maybe someone will buy it. And it didn't sell. I also didn't really promote it, as much as I probably should have. But then I think it was maybe a few months later, I think early 2020, right? Someone who I was closely following for a long time, and loved their art, Hexiosis. Yes. I'm sure everyone's heard of Hex, awesome artists, and so I've been seeing them put out their art for some time, and then I'm seeing them talk about making sales. I'm like, oh, that's cool, and of course, they're a higher volume artist, so I'm seeing them like make sales on a pretty consistent basis, right? And I'm like, that's cool. I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but I did notice it, right? And so, I'd see that maybe every like week or two, and then what I saw though was they posted something about crypto voxels and this gallery that they built in there, right? Yeah. And so, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's crazy. So this artist is making their art and they're selling it, but they also have this gallery that they've built that people can go visit in a virtual world, and of course they're a digital artist, so it makes complete sense like that. Mm-hmm. That should be a thing that is possible. Mm-hmm. But I had never even like thought of anything like that up until that point. Right. And so the moment I saw that was when I was like, okay, first off, how do I get one of these parcels? Second off, how do I sell art on Super Rare? And third off, like, what is this whole like crypto art NFT movement that is going down, right? Like I have to know more about this, right? And, I've always been very interested in like Web3 culture and, the decentralized and peer-to-peer aspects of crypto that, like all the different opportunities it offers us on like a global level. So, learning about the art component being tied into that was revolutionary, as I'm sure it is for, everyone else in the space. And so at that point, I was all in crypto art and NFTs. Yeah. So that's a little bit of the background, up until I think a couple years ago. Right. So then after that, I'm just making as much art as I can. Obviously learning a ton about the space. I think shortly after I started digging into crypto voxels, that's when I, learned about Token Smart and the WIP meetup. I don't even know how I ended up attending the first WIP meetup.
Let me recount how I first saw you at that, whatever it was, early 2020. And I remember whatever the WIP it was March or April or something super early, maybe May. And all of a sudden, like out of the cast of characters that regularly attends the WIP, there's this like floating rainbow thing. And it was like always hovering close to Rizzle. Oh, you know what it was? It was what is it? DeFi Dad helped us arrange and put on like the consensus version of their virtual like conference or whatever. And it was at that meeting you were floating around and just hovering so close to Rizzle. I'm like, who the fuck is this rainbow floaty like, and it was you. Nice. It was you. That's my first encounter with you in the metaverse. Before that though, because I'd recognized your name as an artist on Super Rare. I'm like, wow, this like, wow, Trippy's here. Okay, this is like legit. But at first it was just like this.
That's awesome.
Rainbow. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, I just wanted to say too, just to like sort of pile on Trippy's like skill sets here. Like I wasn't really spinning in the same circles as Trippy was until we had put the call out for a DJ, and Trippy was like, yo, I'd be down to do something like that. And so I actually came to know Trippy like first through that. So I'm like, who is this dude? Is this dude like a DJ or is he like an artist? And like now I'm learning like, he's got all this other background that I was like completely unaware of. Plus, he does like some pretty sick logos on the side as well. I got to add, including our own WIP logo and everything. Yeah. So, dude, you've done it all, man.
I forget, there's been so much that's happened in the last couple of years, and so like there's been a lot of fun projects, So the WIP meetup, love that gathering, right? So you said you saw me there with the rainbow. That means at that point I must have figured out how to mint wearables somehow by then. So I had probably already come to a few, and I think it was probably at the WIP where I saw everyone in there with their wearables. So I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to do that, And then with the pre-shows, the pre-WIP trip now, it's always been a fun experiment, like just getting people weekly in there to have a good time, and that's obviously that's what the WIP is about, right? Sharing alpha, sharing, everyone's successes, whatever's going on in the space, shining light on whether it's artists, builders, creators, devs, founders, all of that. I love the variety, as you can tell by, the things I partake in. I love variety, and I love supporting all the variety that's in the space. And whether that's like putting on shows as a DJ/VJ, or bringing other people to do that, or I lately I've really enjoyed bringing in artists and shining more light on them and giving them a voice in kind of like a longer format type of scenario. There's so much fun happening at the WIP. So I've really cherished a lot of those moments.
Dude, it's been cool to see like the progression of the pre-WIP trip, and going from just music and dude, sometimes my favorite sets are just old school you DJing, but it is cool, man, that you never really know like what you're gonna show up to see, dude. But yo, man, here we're here to hear about your stuff, man. What you're cooking up lately, which I would love to hear more about, honestly, man. I feel like it's in the same vein of like everything that you've been talking about up until right now, with like experimentation and variety and like doing different things. Tell the people, man.
Yeah, so that and I think all of this, everything with the WIP and all of that transpired over the past couple of years, right? It all kind of leads up to now, and the past, I think 6 months have been very heavily dedicated towards building MetaTravellers. It's the new project we dropped a couple of weeks ago. Very successful launch. It's sold out public sale in about 15 minutes. Yes. Thriving community, and we're on the cusp of delivering the 3D models for the what are 2D image avatars for the NFT, but they basically are like a key to your avatar, right? And so, we have this whole vision of this, not just a metaverse, but a universe that we're conceptualizing and building out, right? And this collection was the first guild of that. So yeah, it's been exciting. It's been challenging. It's been probably one of the wildest rides, and I learned smart contract development through it. I definitely learned a lot about, the video game / game asset pipeline. There's a lot of different, there's so many moving parts to this. And my co-founder, Marco, and I, so we had been working together for about 1.5 years, just building like art installation stuff. I think I sent both of you a little teaser of one of the things we had built, and it's like this laser beam etching onto a LED wall, and kind of materializing this like statue with like a full laser lighting setup and stage lighting, and we were really trying to bring these epic art installations into IRL. Mm-hmm. And then COVID hit, right? Like a couple years ago, or like 1.5 years ago or whatever. And so right when that hit, we were like, okay, I don't think we'll be doing IRL installations too much, at least on this scale for some time. So we had to pivot, right? And we were just thinking like, okay, I have a bunch of digital land. How can we blend the two, and how can we start to create these experiences that are a crossover between like digital and IRL? And that was, I think, the core of what we were trying to do, for so long. And so we were just like heads down, we have I think it's like a 36 parcel estate in Decentraland that we just started developing, pretty heavily into, and we weren't exactly sure how we would use that space. Like, are we going to use it as an event center or a gallery or make some games, and we're just like, well, we can do all of the above, right? We hosted a couple launches there for other projects. We, have a rotating gallery that features some of our community members' art, all kinds of different potential there, right? And so we got, I think, maybe about 80% on the build, and we decided that we wanted to launch our own collection, right? And other projects, of course, are launching PFPs, and we're really interested in the concept of digital identity and how we can, I guess, further or enhance that through the embodiment of the digital avatars. And I love experimenting with all these different technologies, and it was a cool opportunity to see like, well, what can we do with like the facial tracking or the full body tracking. 3D, obviously I have plenty of experience with 3D animation, rigging, and character design and stuff like that, right? So we started building the team, started concepting and storyboarding the whole vision out for this collection, right? And originally it was going to be a collection of 3 different species or guilds, and we would launch them all together. And we realized just like the scope of that would have probably taken, 1 year or 2 just to build out, and all at the level that we would have wanted to. And so we decided, okay, maybe we'll just do 1 guild to start and see where that goes. So that's where we ended up now. And so, we had the launch, had the reveal, everyone's loving their 2D image avatars. It is an image of a 3D rendering though. So we already have all the 3D models ready to go. Right now we're just packaging them up and getting ready to serve them up to the community.
Yeah. Like listening to your progression from being a trained engineer and then diving real deep into the digital art space and honing your craft there, going back into the corporate world, sounds like more on the engineering side at that fintech company, and then coming back into like the metaverse and the NFT space, sort of pulling on all your past experiences, first as an artist, second as a builder, and then now like bringing everything together and like taking the art and the building aspect and trying to create these deeper, richer, broader, wider experiences. It seems is coming full circle for you, which is like really brilliant. And I feel like with all these moving parts in the life of a builder or creator, maybe lost amongst collectors or participants or just outside observers seeing like another project MetaTravellers launch. But for me, like as soon as you hit me up and told me about MetaTravellers, I'm like, yes, like sign me up to anything that Trippy is doing, because it's not what you think it is. It's always going to be so much deeper and richer and more livelier. So, okay, we're at that first stage, that first iteration where everyone has their MetaTraveller or travelers in their wallets. I'm just wondering if you can kind of set the stage now for like what we can expect and where we're going, and like what sort of worlds and experiences you want to kind of create around that.
Yeah. So we very much want this to be a community oriented experience. So, you know, we've already dedicated 20% of funds. So I think it's over $500,000 to building community funded projects or community grants, things like that. Basically anything the community proposes and votes into place will help fund and build. So, you know, we established our snapshot, I think last week, to start with the voting on that. We have some proposals kind of like brewing. And so, you know, we have, I think it's a pretty sizable portfolio of land as well to deploy some of these experiences. So that's just like community facing, right? Of course, the core team, we are working to build as much as possible as well. So we have, let's see, I think the estate in Decentraland, I have quite a few parcels in there as well. In addition to that estate, I think it's 3 XLs in Somnium, a bunch of land in Cryptovoxels. So basically just developing all of this land and creating games. So we've also been discussing the early game economics that the greater MetaTravellers universe will have to participate in as well. And I won't go too much into the details, but I'm just gonna tease that, you know, it would be very, very cool if you can take your MetaTraveller, put them in a spaceship, send them on an unknown voyage, you know, out into the ether. And, you know, they are, you know, sending back resources, you know, that potentially like plug back into this whole economic system that, you know, you can use to play more games, purchase upgradables for your avatars, potentially some vehicles that we have planned, and other fun stuff to explore together. We're also, you know, very interoperability focused as far as, you know, where our avatars will be able to play. We are, you know, I've had some really good discussions actually with Metacartel and some of the people over there who and Webiverse, you know, some of I think one of their founders as well, on how we can best make these avatars plug and play across the metaverse. So, you know, we want the like, for example, we're developing an open API where, you know, any platform should be able to hit our server and get the avatar, you know, so you basically log in with your MetaMask and you can just hop into their world, you know, as a Nibiru or as one of the future guilds. So yeah, hopefully, you know, we see a bunch of Nibiru just running around having a wild time. And of course, we want to also tie this into the IRL as well. So, you know, in the future when more people are walking down the street with their AR goggles, right? Or, say you have your Google glasses on or something, and you look across the street and you see another Nibiru standing there, and then they see you, and then you can, wave at them and say, what's up? And, it's like when you go and you like give them a high five or give them a handshake, you see this just like crazy rainbow explosion of like fireworks. It's like, oh, you guys found each other in IRL, and then, you both get like airdropped a Pope or something. Yeah. Just more fun stuff like that, it's like a way to enhance our identities, right? Like we wear clothes for that same reason, right? Because we connect with, a certain piece of it's just a piece of fabric, right? But like, it's also more than that, right? Like you said, it's the creator behind, it's the designer who designed the pattern and the cut of it. And it's the creator's spirit that's kind of like imbued in those objects. So, we want to deliver like the highest quality 3D digital avatars possible, so that when people have these interactions, it acts as a multiplier of their like fulfillment, when they're interacting with others.
Dude, I mean, all this sounds incredible. I'm trying to think like from the perspective of like people who are listening to all this now and, may have missed the drop or may not have like come across it until this very moment. I'm like, it seems like for these people, there would be like a whole host of reasons to get a MetaTraveler, but is there like one? So I guess the way you're presented seems like almost like a sandbox type of thing where like maybe there's like many reasons people want to get one of these things. Perhaps they have like a cool project that they want to get funded. Perhaps they want to explore new terrain or tinker around with games. You're talking about like working in some like really interesting tokenomic type of situations down the line. Like who would you say is like your target audience or like the type of person who would be like most interested in purchasing a MetaTraveler or getting involved in some way?
Yeah, it's hard to hone in. Definitely people who love video games, people who love comics. I haven't even touched on the comics piece. People who love, exploring the metaverse, virtual worlds. Obviously people who are very interested in like, exploring identity and digital embodiment, like, people who love technology. It's like even if you don't have to have like a crazy motion capture suit, like if you have an iPhone, or an Android phone, it's like people who want to see themselves, as a digital avatar like this. Another example is a lot of crypto natives are pseudonymous or anonymous, right? And so they don't really have a way to do YouTubing or things like that without exposing themselves. So it's like also giving a face to pseudonymous identities for like VTubers and stuff like that. So I would say, people who are definitely interested in like exploring and helping push the boundaries of digital like avatar embodiment, and also help people who are interested in helping bridge the gap between like IRL and URL.
I love the vision for where we're going. I laughed out loud multiple times when you're talking about walking down the street wearing goggles or AR glasses and seeing a fellow like Nibiru and like shaking hands and like seeing this like explosion of rainbows. Like, yes, for sure. But for me, like where we are today and like the limitations in terms of like tools, hardware, software, you name it, there definitely needs to be some new tools. There needs to be upgrades. There needs to be changes that happen between now and that future state that you mentioned. So I'm just curious from your vantage point as an artist, as a builder, as a creator, as a participant and user, collector, like what do we need to really make that happen in a seamless way?
Yeah, there's a lot of room to grow on the side of interoperability. And so I think one thing is more, and this has helped so much, is open source software, right? And I think the ethos of organizations coming together to help co-create these solutions. So for example, when Webiverse reached out, obviously I had already been tuned into what they're doing, and I love their vision of the open Metaverse. And there's some tools we discussed that are potentially needed kind of across the board, and there's also all these different platforms are using all these different file types, right? There's no uniform standard, which I don't necessarily think there has to be, but there at least there has to be more tooling around how those play well together, right? So I know Jin and that whole crew is very much interested in the VRM format, which is great for digital avatars specifically. There's a lot, I think you can do with that. So we're definitely building in that direction as well. And then there's also like USD format, which is a Pixar based open source standard that's being a lot more readily used in kind of like the AAA studios and stuff like that. So, we're seeing this. It's a really interesting time where you're seeing the convergence of like so many different technologies happen, right? That I feel like we're on the cusp of an explosion with all of these things, right? Like you have the PFP kind of like taking the nation as far as like NFTs and popularity. And now everyone wants to be able to wear these avatars, right? So you have people like Polygonal Mind, working with Bored Apes to help develop like those 3D avatars, right? And so as more of these technologies continue to advance, so will the tooling, right? And, a lot of people are building with the open internet in mind. So, a lot of these tools would get shared. And if they don't get shared, immediately, like eventually someone's going to make it and open source it, right? It's just bound to happen. So, I think better tooling. Also, and this is a common thing I've seen. There's still a little bit of a stigma as far as some artists and like the NFT space, right? And we need as many creators as possible. Well, like the more creators that help build, the open standards, I think the better for humanity in general, right? Like, I guess not everyone has to open source everything. But we are building together, whether we think we are or not, right? Like we're all participating in the same ecosystem, whether it's the NFT space or the art space, like we're all here for humanity, Another thing is licensing. So we are, we're exploring and doing some dedicated research to like CC0 and what that means, for the potential future of projects and the space as a whole as well, right? Because that's another thing where you can't really stop someone from, copying your IP or whatever. So, it's like, well, there's ways to embrace that could potentially be that have even greater positive impact than trying to kind of like build a walled garden that people can still get into. So yeah, there's I think more collaboration, but at the same time, like we're seeing it happen. Like it's amazing seeing some of the partnerships that we've witnessed, right? For example, yesterday I think it got announced, Artifact and Nike. Big partnerships like that are other like huge accelerators to kind of like all the things that are being built in like the cross reality type of realm as well.
Dude, I would love, it's funny, man. You're saying like, we're all here building for humanity and something. And I'm like, we are. Like, I feel like so a lot of people are entering the scene right now who don't have that same mindset. And, I feel like we're on the same wavelength in terms of like open source, building things together, collaboration, interoperability. But dude, as someone who is as deep in this as you are, I'm like really genuinely interested to hear your like, big zoom out, like big picture view on like where this all heads, like, even 1, 2, 3 years down the line, man. I'm like, does this all get co-opted and funneled into, McDonald's Facebook land, or, it seems like we're sort of at a crossroads here in terms of like people's philosophy on the metaverse and their approach to entering the space right now.
Yeah. I think zooming out to just like a humanity level is, we do have a lot of people entering the space, whether it's the right reason or not, they are looking to extract value. And I think that a lot of that just comes into this like societal culture of scarcity, and I don't have enough, so I have to figure out a way to get more, right? And I think that what the NFT/crypto space offers for that is it offers a way to generate that. And so like there's it's like this physiological wiring where if you don't feel safe, then you have to accumulate resources like however you can, right? And so like we don't, humans might not feel safe because they aren't able to like meet their basic human needs. They aren't able to, have potable water. They can't, maybe they don't have a roof over their head, and so hopefully, and I think that a lot of us are wanting to help build these mechanisms for whether it's like automation or, reducing the amount of unnecessary human labor, to kind of like free up humanity in a way that we don't have to operate from this fight or flight type of scenario where we are just like so hungry for resources that, we'll try to take advantage of another human, our brother or sister, just so we can feel like we're able to survive. Right. So, and for me personally too, like I've been on a long path where I was a starving artist for a long time. I slept on friends' floors or couches or whatever. And so I know what it feels like to like have to try to make it. And so, I empathize, with, the individuals who are coming in the space, because eventually, if they are hungry and if they are dedicated enough, they will eventually get those resources and they will extract that value. And then what, right? They're going to realize that they still have this thirst, that can only be satisfied by like seeking a deeper level of fulfillment. Right. So it's only inevitable that those individuals will turn that way, and they'll have to realize, that there is something more to this. On the corporate level, it's interesting because they already have lots of money, right? Like they're still hungry. But I think that, you have like the opportunity now for the community oriented approach to kind of like seep into some of that. And I know Artifact has like a really strong community, and I bring up this partnership because it's a big one, right? Like they have a very grassroots, crypto native community. And so seeing what that will do when it merges with, one of the biggest brands in the world, I think there is potential there for some really positive impact, right? But only time will tell, as far as that goes. And there's always going to be good people, good and bad in the world. So, I think as many people as possible that can build for the right reasons, I think, focusing on that and helping build the tools and the protocols and, the licensing that operates in that direction, that's at least where mine's at, and trying to empower those people, I think that's the best we can do.
Yeah. Well said, man.
Yeah. And that deeper level of connection, that soul, the sustenance for the soul that you get through this very human interaction, and these interactions where like you're not motivated by money or whatever, like that's everything. That's what keeps me around. That's what's kept me in this space until now, and what makes me so excited heading forward, to be able to connect with literally anyone, anytime, all around the world for these incredibly rich experiences. And that's why I think the whip has been really important. That's why I love and look forward to Thursdays, 12 p.m. Pacific, every fucking week.
Yeah.
I hope to look forward to these Thursdays every week until like my last dying breath. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a lot of other spaces. I hope there are spaces, communities popping up that are affording people access to the same sort of rich experiences, sort of, if not in the same way, just another avenue for people to pursue their passions and share and all that. And I think all too often we ask people to share the alpha on like where the next gold mine is. But I'm wondering if you have any alpha leaks on where the next like social, communal, community alpha is or may come from.
Yeah. You know, how do you find these amazing tribes, right?
Yeah.
One that I haven't actually had enough time to explore yet, but I know there's like a really, really beautiful budding community is Neos VR. And I know recently they, you know, saw a lot of success, but they've been under the radar for a couple of years. And I, you know, I see pictures from their meetups and I see, you know, all the wonderful experiences that people are building. You know, there's stuff like that. There's, you know, VR chat. A lot of VR enthusiasts and technology enthusiasts are out there as well. You know, going to events, you know, whether it's in Decentraland or Crypto Voxels, you know, there's so much happening in the space that, yeah, it can seem overwhelming, but I think, you know, just going to one event and seeing who you connect with, that could change your whole life. You know, I know it happened for me personally. So yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's crazy how these things lead to that and like lifelong friendships and partnerships and collaborations and everything. Dude, yeah. One of the things we always like to ask people, and I'm genuinely fascinated to hear your response, man, is, you know, sort of an intrusive rifle through of people's like crypto wallets to see what kind of like NFTs that are unrelated to their own projects that they've been collecting or are interested in. And dude, I am genuinely fascinated to know like what is of most interest to you that's going on out there. Neos VR is something I've actually heard a lot about as well. In terms of like actual like NFTs, projects, things you've been scooping up, what else has piqued your interest lately?
Oh my gosh, my collection is just like the most random assortment of just like all kinds of cool stuff. There's like, I got a couple, I'm just looking at it right now. I pulled it up. So Crypto Cannabis Club, it just pops up at the top, which is funny. I got M1 mutant serum from my ape. I haven't injected my ape yet with that, so I'm just kind of like serum hodling. I got a MetaKey, the OG edition 1 Genesis. I have a ripped up ticket from a lot of money's Pranksy boxes drop. I have an editioned rareable piece from Sarah, the Sarah Show. Love her art. I think I have another one of one from her as well, and a few other editions. Lulu XXX, got an animated gift there. Got some whip collectibles, some wearables, you know, some more editioned art. Yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah, yeah, a bunch of.
Got what I would have hoped for.
Yeah, some collection of Avastars, some Subducks, toddler pillars. Those are really weird. I thought they looked great.
Oh, I saw those. Those are really weird.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Nissan helped collaborate with those toddler pillars. That
oh my gosh.
Sick, actually.
Yeah, I got a bunch of timeless characters. I'm really, really into like the whole thing that Loopify is building. Definitely a tree holder and a plot holder. Bunch of 101 art. Yeah, so. Yeah, it's all across. Oh, I got some Origin Axes, cut a few mutants. Yeah.
In addition to all that land that you're talking about, and for folks listening, like this is this is an A+ answer.
Yeah,
when we try to rifle through people's wallet, this is what we always want to hear. Especially when you come from a builder and everything. Like, this is amazing.
Oh my gosh, art batar. Yeah, it keeps going. That's tie-dye ninjas. Oh my gosh, yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. And there's just so many fun experiments happening like all over the space. It's like it's hard to not just like ape into everything.
No, that's right.
Honestly, like, crypto payments are the slipperiest payments in the entire world. It's so easy to accidentally purposefully scoop everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude. So, well, amazing answer. And before we wrap up, though, I just want to make sure you let folks know, like, when they want to keep in touch or like participate in a community vote or anything like that, like all the channels they need to be following for MetaTravellers in particular. But then for yourself, just let people know all the handles, all the dates, all the things.
Yeah. So MetaTravellers, METATRAVELERS, it's spelled normal. And it's across the board. A lot of the actions happening in the Discord. So discord.gg/MetaTravellers. We're also on Twitter, and we also have, I didn't mention this, but our motion comic, which is designed in collaboration with the writer of Guardians of the Galaxy, is on YouTube. Also, or I don't think we have the vanity link, but if you go to our website, MetaTravellers.io, you can watch the motion comic. And then personally, Trippyogi, TRIPPYOGI, across all platforms as well.
Hell yeah.
Amazing.
And you can always bump into Trippyogi floating amongst the crowd at the whip.
Yeah, I'll see everyone. I'll see y'all at the whip.
Oh yeah. Dude, Trippy, man, honor and a pleasure to finally be able to get you on the show, talk with you long form, share like your beautiful vision, your beautiful past, like your beautiful soul with the whole world, man. I just hope that you keep doing your thing, keep building, keep creating, and keep doing you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an honor. So thank you both for everything you're doing in the space and for the opportunities that you've created for a lot of people. Thank you.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you, dude.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this week's episode. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter, and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.